today, I want to discuss how to differentiate your AI creator from other AI creators. And it's very clear right now that there's just a ton of number one slop being posted on social media. Number two, the market has changed, and now it's a lot easier for the average person to kind of, have their own regular looking girl who looks semi-real, right? I mean, when we first started the marketplace, let's say like a year and a half, almost 2 years ago now, it was very, very hard to have a high quality creator. And now, we kind of knew this was eventually going to happen where, anybody can have their own creator. That doesn't mean that anybody can make money from it, but it is easier to kind of, produce a, creator that looks like semi decent and, not completely cartoonish. Although I'd still argue that 99% of all creators are just complete cartoon slop, and that ours are, definitely at the very least one step above, but maybe several steps above, others. That's my personal opinion. I think we have a good amount of data backing that up. Anyways, how do you differentiate your creator and your brand and the content you're posting from others? Well, I have this, thesis that I built out that kind of goes over this 4-level nature of the different types of AI content that you can make with your creator and how you can kind of run that content on your social medias and your brand and what that looks like, right? And so the first level of content creation is what people were really only capable of doing for a very long time. The other levels more or less only became possible, let's say, within the last like 3-4 months as the technology has evolved. TJP launched, Apex Video, the Seedance technology improved, and you were kind of able to change what you're able to do. Level 1 content creation is this idea of just pure like copying, right? Like you're just straight copying other content you see on social media. For example, using TJP, if you use the video motion tool and you kind of take an initial motion and kind of copy that motion, for example, a dance trend, that to me is like level 1 content. Like there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. You could still make money. We have creators that are running very simple level 1 content, maybe with a slightly better overall brand, and they're still doing $10, $20, $30,000 a month with level 1 content. Now, level 2 content is where you kind of get to the next stage of content creation. Now, you've probably seen a lot of the sports content, maybe the newscaster content, UFC content is really big right now. There's all kinds of different unique content styles that are kind of emerging, maybe interview content. What that is basically, instead of just directly copying the content like level 1 is, level 2 is taking that content you see that's viral, you're still copying it, but you're building an original prompt into the content system, right? And so if you use Apex Video on TJP, you now are required to basically build out a prompt, right? And so that's more complicated than just directly copying the motion. So that to me is level 2, where there's now an original prompt. Now you're still just copying, proven viral content that is on social media, right? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with level 2. And I would say level 2 is where, proper brand, management, whatever, that's when it really starts. Level 2 does cost more money because you have to pay for the content using either Apex Video or Seedance. I personally recommend Apex Video. That could get expensive, especially if you start doing like 4K content or 1080p content. Like a 15-second video could be like $15 or like $25-$30 for 4K. Of course, it's a lot cheaper for 480p or 720p, but if you want high quality content, you're going to have to spend money for it. Like there's no way around it, right? Whereas the video motion content in level 1 is significantly cheaper. And so I would argue the results will show, especially over the long run. If you're running a page with level 2 content, let's say you're posting only 480p, that easily could be like $20 or $30 a day in content just for one, one social media that's posting 3 times a day. Sure, you could also post it on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. At the end of the day, there's just, it's going to cost something. Now, the level 3 piece of content is where you create the prompt and the idea for the viral video yourself, right? Like somebody thought of this UFC content, like the first person, they had an original idea, they built a prompt for it, they designed the scene, and that, that's part of the prompt creation, and they were able to kind of produce their own original content and go viral. Now, eventually someone in the level 2 category might see your viral content and try to copy you, but this is where level 4 comes in, right? Level 4 content is where you have original content, but you've built a story into your brand, right? Like there's a reason for someone to follow you. Meaning, let's say someone is like tracking social media and they're like, oh, like this is, a piece of content that has like 10 million views. That's obviously a good video for me to recreate in level 2. And they create like one of your, your one-off viral videos, right? Now, maybe they're going to get views and go viral with that one-off viral video, but they kind of miss the big picture of what's happening with your brand. And if you have a real story behind your brand, and I'll give you an example of this in a second, then what's going to happen is people are going to be inclined to be more interested in your content. Whereas like they might get views and they might make a little bit of money from it, but they're not really building this long-term audience. And that's where the big money is made, right? And, you could argue that as you move down the levels, the complexity and the cost of building the content kind of goes up, but the reality is that, you can make significantly more money as well if you do it properly. It doesn't mean you have to do this. It's just, this is how I'm perceiving the content. And, frankly, like almost nobody is doing level 4 content right now, let alone level 3. I mean, most people are stuck in level 1. Some people are trying to do level 2 and kind of getting good results. And then, some people are in like level 3 or 4, but it's really not many people, in my opinion. It's a very small amount of people. Example of level 4 could be not just doing the UFC content. So level 2 would be, okay, well, you see one of these UFC videos, got like 3 million views. You're like, okay, I want to make a version of that. You kind of make your own version for level 2. You recreate the viral. Level 3 is, well, you're like, okay, well, I like this UFC content. I want to make like my own version of, a viral video, right? So maybe like I have one where her pants come down, or, I have one where the girls accidentally kiss while they're fighting. Maybe it's like 2 girls fighting each other. Maybe like there's like unique scenes happening that other people have not tried yet. So that would be level 3. Level 4 is kind of building a story behind your brand, right? So for example, some of the content, the UFC content that's been going very viral is where like the girl and the guy are kind of doing like UFC wrestling content, and they kind of build like a relationship, and they sort of flirt with each other and have these moments, and those moments have been doing extremely well on Reels right now. Well, what if you, instead of just kind of isolating those moments as one video, built an entire brand off that, right? The girl has a crush on the guy is her coach, they're flirting, they do all these like poses together, and wrestling together. And, she could like walk in the gym and like she sees the guy, doing his warm-ups, and she's like all giggly and excited. And you could have, captions on the video that like, I have a crush on my coach and he doesn't know this Instagram page exists. And like you build like a story behind it. And, eventually, let's say you need to elevate the story. Well, what happens? Well, maybe you run an entire Instagram page for like the coach and the girl and how they've like built a relationship together now. And you could give the guy a name, you could give the guy a brand. People are going to be invested in this. Like in your mind, you might be like, well, it's AI, no one cares. Well, they do care, right? Like nobody else is doing this, right? You could go sample all the different UFC brands and not a single one has this level of detail and effort going into it. And like, this is the differentiator between someone who's in level 2, who just sees like that one piece of content that you posted got 5 million and they missed the big picture, right? So they reposted, they get 1 million views, and then that's kind of it. And maybe they make some money, but there isn't this like deep connection between the people who viewed the content and, they're the creator, right? So like they might make some money, but that's not where the big money comes from, right? Going back to the level 4 idea, you build up this like brand over time. People are invested in the story. They're invested in the relationship. Guess what you do, right? You have your FanPlace account, the premium side, which then has, the content between the girl and the guy, on there, right? The content, right? And, you sell that content, people come in, like they want to watch it, right? And so now they're following along and they're like, oh, damn, like this is something that I would like to see. They go and subscribe, and that's where you make your money, right? You can make a lot of money, and this is a proven system. This isn't random. Maybe the UFC side, like that angle is unique, and that's kind of one of the things you can do with AI to differentiate, right? But with real creators, this has been around for a long time, where like girl and guy, like they have a couples page and they do like all this couples content, and there's like this implied sexuality, right? There's like this implied flirtatious nature, and they build up a following. And then from there, the best ones, obviously, like, they have like a proper brand and people want to follow them. And then of course they move over to the OF and, people want to watch their spicy content, and that's how they build a business, right? So this is my own unique thesis, the 4 levels of content creation that you can achieve with your AI creator. In my opinion, I think that most people should try to aim at the very least to be in level 2. And I think that you can make good money in level 2. If you're unique and creative, then you can get into the level 3, level 4. And I think that what I would do personally is I would kind of focus on, some combination of like a level 1 and 2 page, and then, maybe have a second account where you start kind of working up to the level 3, 4 ideas for your brand, right? Like that would be where I would be. And if you're new to this, you might not have a ton of money. Level 2 will cost some money. Level 3, 4 will cost a lot of money probably to do, right? But that's where the biggest return is, And it sounds crazy where you're like, well, I don't want to spend $5,000 on my creators' Instagram pages, but per month. But if you do that and then you make 50,000, it's kind of a good investment, right? So everything has a trade-off, right? A lot of people might say, well, I only want to spend $50, right? Well, it's kind of hard pressed to say, well, I'm going to spend $50 a month and make 100K. that's not really a realistic outcome, right? Like you're talking about a 2000x return. Like go look up the math. Like there's no such thing in the world that you get 2000x returns on like that, right? Like the odds of that is like hitting the lottery, And so there needs to be some level of investment into your business to get a return. Now you could do a $50 a month account, in terms of spend, and then you could, potentially get like a $5,000 a month, return, or 10,000. Like that would be 100x or 200x. That's really good in my opinion. That's an unbelievable result, right? And so what you put in is kind of what you get out, but it's not just about the short-term money. This is another thing people miss. It's not just about the short-term money, it's about the long-term money, right? And so, people kind of are like, well, like how can I make as much money in the short term? But if you have this really high quality brand on social media, and let's say you transfer that brand over to your fan place and you run it with the same intention on your fan place, the same posting, in terms of level 3, 4 content also applies to fan place. Well, now you have people that are going to stay renewing. They're getting new content from you. They're getting insights into the lives of your creators and, exclusive content. Maybe there's, NSFW, UFC wrestling content, etc. Right? There's all kinds of things that you can post to kind of keep people engaged, right? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, right? Nobody is doing this right now. It's completely possible, but nobody's doing it. And so this is where the big opportunity is. It's very fucking doable, in my opinion. There's a lot of money in it. If you're interested in learning more or getting started with AI creators, go to the link below, AICreatorMarketplace.com. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it.